Hi, and welcome everybody to the Winner's Circle. It's Monday, January 4th. It's the day after the NFL regular season has been completed. And as always, I'm joined by my co host, Mr. Chip Chirimbes out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Chipper, how are you today?
I'm fine. I'm just wondering how we got to this point, Ross. The season's already over and the playoffs are on their way. It
Yeah,
just never, without a preseason, it just seemed like the season just went right past us.
it certainly did. I mean, the college football season, we got a little bit. I mean, I hate to say anything involving COVID-19 as a break because that seems pretty selfish. And, a lot of people suffering through this. But I mean, it extended the college football season for us, is what I'm trying to say. But
It,
still,
it, it
I,
took a
I want
lot.
to get back into the normal scheme of things. You
Yes,
know what I
yes.
mean? So, where people
But
teams are playing each playing 12 games and one team
yeah,
isn't playing 6 and other playing 12. 5 games got canceled on a Friday. They're supposed to be played on a Saturday. A game on a
yeah,
Sunday in the NFL isn't moved to a Monday or Tuesday. Lamar Jackson has COVID-19. Is he going to play or not? That kind of thing. There's more important things in the world to worry about as it applies to that. But it
to who?
certainly was a little bit, certainly a little unnerving when dealing with our daily handicapping in that regard. But I guess if that's the worst of our problems, Chip, we're doing pretty good.
No, it's fine. We lost a lot of big games, I think, on Saturdays. I think there had to be like, 6 or 7 times where there were games we were really interested in that were eliminated. But, that's the course of life right now. You extended the season, like you said, but, maybe we didn't quite get enough games out there to really get a solid footing. But here we are, January 4th. We got the NFL Wildcard weekend and looking forward to it after that big giant win. And how about the
Yeah.
integrity of the league now? I'm
Oh
questioning the
man.
integrity of the league. What's going on here with the Eagles?
The conspiracy theorists are out plentiful right
Yes.
now. They're going
They
to be
should be.
all, yeah. I mean, boy, oh boy.
That's a taint. They tainted the shield. I'll tell you that. They did.
So he comes out today. When I say he, Doug Peterson, the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, comes out today and says, well, Nate Sudfeld's been with us for 4 years now, and I planned on going into the game because it didn't mean anything to us uh, to put him in and get some action. Had we were playing all our best players, we were playing to win, but that was one thing I wanted to do. It's just like you just don't do that with.
But
Yeah,
Ross,
yeah.
he's had the guy for 4 years. If he don't know he can play, what snaps does he need? By the way, he's probably the fifth string with all the injuries they've had.
Well, it's
Jalen
just
Hurts wasn't even supposed to be in there.
it's like Chris Collinsworth said, and I'm not a big Chris Collinsworth fan, but I agree with him when he said, "Okay, you do that. You do that if you're getting blown out. Okay,
Yeah,
you do that
yeah,
like if it was the Miami Buffalo game yesterday, where Miami's losing 56-20 or whatever.
right.
Then you do stuff like that. But when somebody's playoff life is on the line, you have to respect the integrity of the league. That's my opinion.
Yes,
And then
yes.
again, it's not out of the norm for him, but you got to scratch your head. He had 4th and goal on the 4 midway through the third quarter. And he instead of kicking the field goal, which would have tied the game at 17, he goes for it, Chip. It's just
Uh, Not too many questions. I know they're up in arms in New York, but I brought it up, but I question it. But we have to move on from it. There's nothing we can do now.
yeah,
But
no.
I really,
But it's
I
a
just want
topic
the
of
guy to reset
discussion
the
this
weekend
today.
when the Eagles come to New York and they allow fans back in the stands. He's going to need police protection.
No doubt about it. If and he and by all accounts, he's going to keep his job. So that's a mess. Carson Wentz, you see him with street clothes on the sideline yesterday. He went from being a starting quarterback 3 weeks ago
Yeah.
to not even dressed yesterday. Oh boy, what a mess.
Yeah,
Anyway,
they got problems. They got problems there.
let
But
me ask you this.
yes,
We're going to discuss the Washington Tampa Bay
okay.
game a little later, but does Washington match up better than the Giants would against Tampa Bay? Keep in mind, the Giants gave Tampa all they can handle on a Monday night, but Chip, I think Tampa's a heck of a lot better at this stage
But
of the season than they were then.
I think the key to the whole thing is you just said this stage of the season.
Yeah.
That Young has come on like we haven't seen in a long time, and their team's gotten better all the way around. They're a really good football team right now, no matter how many wins they have. They lost twice to the Giants, which is surprising.
Yeah.
But you know, I think they're the better football team than the Giants are right now. Though I would love to have seen the Giants get in there. Hey, they're
Sure.
there. They won it. Let's see what happens. I mean,
They earned it, right? I mean, they certainly earned it. And the Giants had, they got nobody to blame but themselves. I mean,
sure.
prior to the win yesterday, they had dropped 3 in a row. So I
And
mean,
they blew 3 games outright in the last 2 minutes. They let Dallas score twice the first time they played them within the last 2 minutes.
yeah, they lost that game 37-34. They
And
lost Philly
and they
22-21.
lost it. Was it the Patriots? They had someone else beat on a new one. Maybe it was Tampa Bay. It was
Yeah,
Tampa
it was
Bay.
Tampa Bay. They were a 14-point underdog in that game, and they lose by 2. I
Yeah.
mean, when in a game they led for the majority of
Yeah.
the game. So
Yeah,
anyway, let's get to what's going
maturity
on
with
now. Before we get to discussing the 6 wild card round games, and boy, to me that's exciting. Chip, you're going to
Yeah,
get
I
3
like it.
games on a Saturday and 3 on a Sunday.
I
All
like
day
it.
affair. Great. But before we get to that, you've been red hot in the NBA.
Yeah.
You hit a big NFL game this weekend as well.
Right.
So tell the folks how you're doing and where they can find you.
The new year's been great to us. We hit our game of the year with Ohio State in the FBS playoffs, and then we had the Giants as our top play on Sunday. Though overall, we just broke out even. But the NBA's really been on fire. We've gone 3-0 the last 2 days, went 2-1 the day before that. And on Saturday in the college basketball, we lost our best bet with LSU, but we hit our other 2 plays, 2 underdogs and 1 outright. So I'm really happy with what's going on. And this COVID has kept us locked in, and I don't have time to get distracted. I'm sitting here doing my work continuously, and there's no excuses anymore, and it's really working out.
I went to get my hair cut today finally, and I've been sort of sidestepping that because my fear of you don't know what these guys try, But anyway, it's done, it's over with. But it affects all our life. You know what I mean? You stop and think twice when you didn't have to before. Took life for granted. Anyway, as far as I go, I hit my NFL game of the year. Total of the year, excuse me, last night as I had the Washington and Philadelphia game under 44. That wasn't looking too good at halftime, Chip, when it was 17-14.
Hey, on the final score, Ross, and it was a great call.
That's it. 20-14, only 3 points scored in the second half. I also had Ohio State, like yourself. We both had game of the years on Ohio State, who just not annihilated, but they routed Alabama.
They did.
Excuse me, Clemson. 49-28.
Hey,
as a
Ross, does this mean that Ohio State's now ranked 12th? I'm on the Dabo's going to rank them 12th now.
Well, Dabo says now they're deserving. Okay, well, like I told you, Chip, you don't make comments. I don't care how boisterous
how
he is.
foolish.
You don't give billboard material the week of a game, especially a game of that magnitude. Especially against a program like Ohio State, who had been hearing right along all the pundits against them because they only had played 6 games, and then the team you're playing against, this guy shoots his mouth off. Oh, well. And plus Ohio State was playing with revenge because last year they had him on the ropes too. They had him 16-0. Anyway, let's get to the NFL, Chipper.
Okay, buddy.
I'm a little disappointed. My Buffalo Bills, they put them in a 1:00 slot on Saturday. Not for nothing. They're the number 2 seed. They played on Sunday. They could have bumped them to Sunday, or they could have put them in prime time at least.
It's not the market they want.
Yeah, I guess not. And it's what it's all about is ratings, even though the ratings will be high in Western New York. I could assure you that.
Oh, when you see them in the Super Bowl, the ratings will be big too. So
anyway, let's see. Boy, I'd love to see that. Anyway, right now, Buffalo, they opened 6.5, Chip. They went to 7, back down to 6.5. The total opened at 52, down to 51.5. Boy, Buffalo. I mean, cast aside, I've been a lifelong fan. Okay, let's keep it on an objective standpoint. This is a team that's blowing people out left and right. I mean, their only loss, I think, in the last 10 has been against Arizona and that Hail Murray. I want to get your thoughts on this game.
Well, hold on. I had something I was gonna comment on, but Buffalo is the number 2 seed. They're one of the best teams out there, and Indianapolis was supposed to be a really strong defensive team. My first impression was this was a strong number. Indianapolis coming in, getting a touchdown now, and I think they finally are paying the Bills some respect that they deserve, and they certainly do in my mind. I've told you how I believe this team has grown in this season, and like you just mentioned, their only loss in their last 10 games is on that Hail Mary, and so that number I think is a strong number. And when I first saw it, I was a little taken back because the Colts are supposed to be there. I thought the line would be a little shorter, and I think deservedly so. Buffalo is where they are. We'll have to wait to the end of the week and see what happens with any line movement or play or whatever before you get serious about it. But my first impression was that once it got to 7, and I think it's going to be higher than that is a lot easier to be involved with Indianapolis. By the way, they are playing Indianapolis, and then it would be to lay the points with Buffalo.
Yeah, Indianapolis is sort of a scary team. I mean, you look at Jonathan Taylor. He had a monster game yesterday, and he's really come on
Finally,
down the stretch. But, that's a defense that was terrific early on and seemed to waned off a little bit, if that's a word, down the stretch. Yesterday against Jacksonville, a game they should have won. They were a 17-point favorite. They closed as. And they let him back in the game, 20-0. They let him back in. It was 20-14. So they got and this is a team that they were on the outside looking in yesterday.
Yes.
They needed Miami to lose, and that's what happened. So give them credit. They're there. Phillip Rivers, a veteran quarterback. Me and you aren't crazy about. And we'll see. I mean, I'm looking forward to this. You never know in the playoffs. Teams like Indianapolis.
We still have 6 days before this thing's kicking off. So
Frank Reich's a hell of a coach. I know that.
Like I said, the Bills to me are just. I'm impressed.
Well, they're an offensive juggernaut right now.
I'm really impressed with this kid. I'm sorry.
If I'm Indianapolis, okay, I'm looking at Buffalo at times this year had trouble stopping the run. And I think a lot of people get lost in the fact that, they've been better against the run. It's because they're blowing people out.
Yeah.
And the opposition has to abandon the running game. Let's not get carried away, folks. It's imperative. If Indy wants to stay in this game, win this game, they get the lead. And they just pound the ball with Jonathan Taylor and hope they have success there, which opens up play action pass, controls time of possession, and I hate to say this, I forget what year it was. I want to say 1991. The Giants against the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl. A guy named Bill Parcells said, "I'm going to run the ball. We're going to control time of possession, and we're going to keep that
39 minutes.
39 minutes time of possession." What was the running back for Otis Anderson?
Otis Anderson.
Unbelievable. Anyway, the LA Rams at the Seattle Seahawks. Now, we talked off air. You like this kid that's filled in yesterday, a quarterback for the Rams. He did a hell of a job.
Better than Goff.
Yeah. I don't know. You're gonna get some argument there, but
his throwing motion, his movement, his posture, and he's not afraid to run the ball. Goff doesn't run the ball the way he runs the ball.
And this kid, people forget, this kid was a hell of a quarterback at Wake Forest, Chip.
He looks like a hell of a quarterback right now.
Yeah, so he's not intimidated by the moment. You play for Wake Forest and you have success there. They don't recruit like the rest of the ACC does. So he's playing with an undermanned team, very well coached team, but he's a winner, this kid. There's no two ways about it. Seattle gets by San Francisco yesterday. Their defense seems to be improved, Chipper. I know I lambasted them a lot early on in the year. They seem to be coming into form a little bit. I still think it's going to bite them in the behind somewhere. But right now, Seattle's a 5-point favorite, Chip, and the total is 43.
Well, Seahawks defense only had one way to go, and that was up. I mean, they were last in the league for a while. And, and Carroll's a good coach. They're going to improve somewhat. They have to, I believe. And this game is going to be dependent. If Goff, I'll tell you right now, if Goff is starting in this game, I'm not going to be on LA. I just can't see it. If this kid's starting, I'm going to be a Ram fan. That's the way I'm looking at it right now. Of course, by Friday, I may be changing my side, but no, I'm only teasing. I think LA with this kid at quarterback is the side here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's an division matchup. I believe these teams split during the regular season, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, an interesting game to say the least. And keep an eye on that quarterback situation for the Rams. See who will we'll see if Jared Goff is going to get the call here. And as Chip just said, he's not so sure the Rams won't be better off without the backup, who just had a nice
Yeah.
performance yesterday in the win against Arizona. Tampa Bay
He
at
threw a great
Washington.
ball.
Yeah, you keep saying that. So,
Yeah.
and you're correct. I watched him, and he was very good. Tampa Bay at Washington. Um, Talked about this one off air too. I mean, Tampa Bay,
Yeah,
an
we did.
8-point favorite on the road against the Redskins, who got in yesterday. We're not going to rehash what happened with Philadelphia pulling Jalen Hurts and bringing in Nate Sudfeld and all that garbage. Washington's in. They earned it. Okay. I don't care what the circumstances are, deal with it. So my thing is, I look up playoff home underdogs on my database, Chipper, and since 1980, playoff home underdogs 28, 14, and 2 against the spread.
Pretty good.
And they won 24 of those 44 games outright. Better yet, home underdogs of 4.5 or greater in playoff games since 1980. It's only occurred 5 times. The home underdog of 4.5 or greater has covered on each occasion and won 3 of those 5 games outright. Does that hold any water with you here?
Well, your database gives us the Redskins, and it sure does. I mean, that's a good enough sample, I would say, since 1980. And we're talking about NFL playoffs where the system has been the same every year. It isn't like they've changed it. You're seated where you are, and that's how they play the games. So, yeah, I think it has a lot of validity what you're saying right now. But of course, each individual game has its own personal circumstances, shall we say, and the storyline here might end up being the new Lawrence Taylor against the old Tom Brady. I don't know. So, because this Young is something else. He really is a great player for Washington.
He's a fantastic player. He's a dominant player to say the least.
Yeah.
And I remember one situation, because if you're going to get a home underdog of 4.5 or greater in the playoffs, more times than not, they're going to be closer to 500 or below 500 record. And I remember one situation where Seattle playing New Orleans years ago,
Yep.
and Seattle won the NFC West with a record of 6-10, and they were like an 8.5 point underdog at home against New Orleans, and Marshawn Lynch just single-handedly took the game over, and Seattle won. And Carolina, I remember them as a 7-9 team under Ron Rivera, ironically, and they won their first round matchup. So again, just because the team is not good on as far as their win-loss record goes, and they're an underdog at home, it's a whole different entity when you get to the playoffs, obviously. So
they're both playing really well too right now. I mean, Patriots listen to me. Buccaneers been putting buckets of points up, and Washington's got a really good, solid team. I mean, they have an excellent defense and led by Young, who we said, and they control the ball on the ground. Smith's not making mistakes. This may be a closer game, like you said, according to the numbers, than most people think.
Yeah, the only thing that scares me here is if they're going to lean on the running game. Tampa Bay has been extremely good, Chip, as we discussed many times against the run over the last couple seasons. So we'll see where it goes. Alex Smith doesn't look 100% to me, but by the same token, he did throw 2 picks yesterday, which is uncharacteristic of him. But you like. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Do you think Washington has a chance to actually win the game?
I think any team that's in the playoffs has a chance to win the game, especially playing at home. Again, if it was a full stadium, I would like their chances a lot more. But I think they got a good chance of covering the game. Let's put it that way. Would it shock me if they won the game outright? Probably not, but it would to a degree, because Tampa Bay, to me, they're gelling at the right time, especially offensively. Those 3 wide. Mike Evans got hurt yesterday, so we'll see what happens there.
They said it was nothing serious.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that, because I want to see Tampa Bay at full strength.
He looked hurt.
Yeah, he did look hurt. Maybe they just took it a precautionary measure.
Well, they got the MRI and everything today, and they said that he's fine.
That's good. That's great news. Baltimore, Tennessee. This is the Sunday early game, 1:05 p.m. Eastern time. This one caught my eye right off the bat. You got a division winner in Tennessee playing a wild card team in Baltimore. And the wild card team is a 3.5 point road favorite, Chipper. Again, once again, I'm going to repeat myself. NFL home underdogs since 1980 in the postseason, 28-14-2 against the spread. What's your take here?
I think this is a real smash mouth football game. Reminds me of the old black and blue division. You got one guy that ran for 2,000 yards for one team, and the other team's leading the league in rushing with, who's the kid, Dobbins from Ohio State? I mean,
Yeah, he's an animal.
They ran for 400 yards in their final game against Cincinnati, and they say, okay, it's against Cincinnati, but their legs got to get tired running that far.
I think
I'm
they had
telling you,
280 the week
really,
before. Yeah.
Baltimore's come together here, and they've won like the last 6, I think it is, in a row, and they've won them impressively. It isn't like they're squeaking by people. They've been dominating the line of scrimmage and the play overall, Ross. And when they came up 3.5, I was taken back because Tennessee wins the division. I mean, you got to think with Henry there that they're going to have any kind of edge. I was surprised that the line was this high. I really was, and you really threw a monkey wrench at me with your terrific stats. I mean, now I gotta, like, it's like peeing into the wind, you know. I was sitting there looking at this, and
you know, just be a stat is a stat. I mean, that doesn't mean it's
it is
concrete.
What it is.
You know what I mean?
And you know what?
Treat each individual situation differently.
Exactly, and it's not 100%.
No,
there's still a chance.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And the other part of the equation, Chip, and I think people with short memories fail to realize last year Baltimore went 14-2. They went into the postseason on a 12-game win streak, and in the divisional round, after they got a first round bye, they hosted the Tennessee Titans, and guess what? Tennessee beat them and knocked them out of the playoffs. So now they're going on the road and playing big time revenge here. So keep that in mind.
They had enough room to win and not cover too here. They can win by a field goal or less and get their revenge, and we get beat.
Yeah, well, exactly. So, all right, Chicago and New Orleans. The Chicago Bears are who we thought they are, a playoff team. 8-8 backed their way in because Arizona lost. They had the tiebreaker, and the 8-8 Bears will travel to New Orleans to take on Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans is a 10-point favorite, Chipper. A 10-point favorite, and a total of 48.
No, out there, I'm really annoyed.
I'm
really annoyed about this game because I was under the impression that the Chicago Bears had to win the game to get into the playoffs. When I saw Green Bay at 4 there, I said, Green Bay is going to kill them. This 4 is a sucker bet. Yeah, it was a sucker bet for me because I took Chicago. They lost, and they still got into the playoffs. And
I don't mean to make you feel bad, but, because your left arm's broke, my right arm being broke feels better because I had the Bears too. So
there you go. Well, the line really tricked me here because I expected the Packers to be 6. They needed a win to clinch the number 1 seed. And here's Green Bay, and I'm understanding that the Chicago Bears needed to win, which they did not. I misinterpreted the game. I apologize to all of my clients and my followers. Big mistake on my part, and I'll make up for it this weekend. Now we've got 10 points with the Bears against this New Orleans team that just crushes people.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they crush people.
Oh, they crushed people. They crushed me yesterday too. Them too. That was another one.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina apparently was a big. New Orleans was a big public play yesterday, or was it Carolina?
Yeah, New Orleans was a big public play. According to the sports books out here in Las Vegas, in the late afternoon games, they got annihilated, and and that was the one game, and the other heavy game was Tampa Bay and Atlanta. Yeah, and they were really strong. And the information came here that they also got beat because so many people had bet on the total wins for the year on the Raiders to go over, and they converted a 2-point conversion with 24 seconds to go to win the game to make the. And they said
in true Raiders style, they scored that with 18 seconds to go to kick off. And the next play was a long pass play, and they actually had to block a 60-yard field goal with no time left on the clock to prevent themselves from 2 disastrous losses in a row. Anyway, it's some crazy finishes in the NFL this year. But you know what? Really. Chicago is in that game right to the end. I'm not, it's not the final score to me wasn't indicative of how close that game was. To me, they were right in it to the end, and at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers, you got to give him credit, Chip.
Does it all the time.
Not for nothing. I'm a big Josh Allen guy.
Yeah.
And I heard a lot of discussion on ESPN today comparing Josh Allen to Aaron Rodgers in terms of who's going to win the MVP. Look, at Aaron Rodgers does not have besides Devontae Adams, and Stephon Diggs actually outperformed Devontae Adams this year, with the exception of Devontae Adams scored 18 touchdowns. But the bottom line is that the Packers wide receiver crew doesn't compare with Buffalo's. And look at the numbers that Rodgers put up. 48 touchdown passes, Chip. What do you have? 48 touchdown passes and like 5 interceptions? Something ludicrous.
Yeah, really.
You know what I mean? So
really. No, I think he's the MVP this year. I really do.
Yeah.
And Mahomes to me drops into the third spot.
He does.
Well, and maybe even lower behind, because he's had a great year. He deserves it in my mind. Not just continually.
Yeah, and again, I could be a little biased, but I'm not gonna be. Look, Josh Allen's a great quarterback right now. We're elated here in Western New York to have him. His leap forward in year 3 has been terrific, but he's got some weapons, Chip, and he in Green Bay doesn't have the weapons on the outside that Rodgers or that Buffalo has. So anyway, Cleveland and Pittsburgh, Chipper. Really strange situation. These teams finished the regular season against each other. Cleveland barely hangs on to win 24-22 against Pittsburgh backups with Mason Rudolph and Joshua Dobbs playing at quarterback, and they hold on, and God bless the Browns. They make the playoffs at 11-5. And now they have to go to Pittsburgh to take on a Pittsburgh Steelers team that really has reeled a bit down the stretch, correct? They have that nice comeback in the second half against Indy 2 weeks ago, where they were down 24-7 at the half, came back to win 27-24. But other than that, they've really struggled. And, the only thing when it comes to this game, Pittsburgh, by the way, opened at 3.5. They're up to 5 now, Chip. Cleveland.
Tell us why, Ross. You know why. How does Cleveland do when they go to Pittsburgh?
They've lost 17 times in a row at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh.
There you go.
Last 17 times Cleveland has gone, and they've failed to cover in 11 out of those 17 as well.
Did Cleveland win the first meeting as well this year? Did they sweep the series?
Pittsburgh won that first meeting. They beat them. They beat them up. It was like 38-13 or something like that.
Okay.
And, again, Pittsburgh's had their number for years. But this is a different Cleveland team. You know what I mean? And we'll see. Again, I don't trust Baker Mayfield on the road in a high-pressure situation like this. The big key in this game to me, Chipper, is Cleveland going to be able to run the ball. They have been able to run the ball on most people. If they could run the ball, they could stay in this game.
Well, Pittsburgh ran the ball for only 81 yards yesterday. And their running game is really suffering. And they were 11-0 at one time, and now they've lost 4 of their last 5, like you mentioned. And I think the key component is the lack of their running game. And they just don't have it, any of it. Maybe once in a while it jumps up and it'll bite somebody. But I don't know how they can just rely on Ben play after play after play. Those short passes, the tight end, once in a while going over the top, and then scrambling around, because they have to provide a little bit more offense than what we've seen.
Yeah, and you mentioned it too. I'm just wondering how healthy Ben Roethlisberger is, because it seems like, especially in the latter part of the year, I think he's lost some velocity on his throws, and I think the coaching staff is aware of that, and their offensive game plans, pretty much like you just said, have been a lot of dink and dunks in the passing game.
Yeah,
and they very seldom try to stretch the field vertically, and that just. With no non-existent running game, which is very uncharacteristic of a Pittsburgh Steelers team, right? They still could play defense, so this shapes up to be a pretty good matchup.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's very interesting. And Cleveland coming off that game where they only win by 2, and they had the lead, and then Pittsburgh comes back into the game, and then they come back and play them again next week. So I'm sure Pittsburgh tried to probably stay as vanilla as they could in that game, because their playoff spot was where it was. And Cleveland had to pull out everything to win the game because it was their playoff lives. So it's going to be an interesting outlook on this one. And It's been one. This is going to be a great one to watch for us. It really is. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to it.
my Buffalo Bills get stuck Saturday at 1 o'clock, and Cleveland and Pittsburgh get a prime
They
time
want to
game.
put the blowouts early. They get the blowouts out of the way.
Well, I hope you're right. Anyway, all right. So there you have it. That's our early edition of the NFL Wild Card Weekend. We will be back on Friday, and we'll discuss more in detail these games. We'll take a look at some line movements on Friday. We'll each have an NFL free pick for you in the playoffs. And tomorrow we'll return. We're going to give out an NBA and college basketball free pick, a little shorter segment there. And I have to go through a little bit of surgery, dental procedure on Wednesday, so I might be out of action for a couple days and might not be able to talk a little bit. So hey, my wife is happy with that, Chip, but I know you're not. And,
Well, I'm
and
not.
I hope
I
the
just didn't.
listeners aren't.
I didn't know they did brain surgery through the teeth. I didn't
Yeah, well,
understand.
it's a new procedure. They're going to go directly to the stem of my brain and see where all the ignorance comes from. Anyway, uh, any final thoughts, Chipper?
Well, my thoughts are I'm excited about not only the NFL playoffs, which you have to be, and of course we got the championship game in college football coming up, and we're both coming off 2-0 days. NBA and college basketball is here each and every day. And, chipwins.com, I'm posting 3 games a day with a Megabuck best bet winner, and we're really in a groove, and I'm feeling great about the season. We're taking our time. Like I said, we're putting a lot of work in, Ross. There's no more running around in Las Vegas. There's nowhere to go. So just log on, follow the buy links, and become a 8-play Chip Chirimbes, chipwins.com.
Yeah, there's not even any women to chase either.
Oh, no.
Hey.
You got to really hand it to those hookers, though. I'll tell you that.
Anyway, I'm 21-12 with my last 33 in all sports. That's my pay selections. You could find me at rbwins.com. And again, you could find my buddy Chip Chirimbes, one of the best handicappers, and I mean that in all seriousness. Best handicappers out there, folks. Trust me when I tell you. I don't give accolades out because I'm trying to kiss somebody's ass. That's not my style. Chipper's one of the best. You can find him at chipwins.com. Once again, me, rbwins.com. Until tomorrow, folks, when we come back with basketball free picks for Chip Chirimbes, I'm Ross Benjamin. We like to wish each and every one of you all the best, and God bless.